special meeting of the Conservation Commission at 6:38.
6:38.
Turn out the agenda, Mike.
Only three things.
There's only three. Do it. Beth did. Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome. Very basic.
Good. Since they're already public hearings, we don't have to read don't have to read anything.
That's true.
Cuts down on the reading.
Um,
So,
yes,
bullet point number 1, reorg. We start out to say I'm a little shocked we're here where we are. After the abrupt departure. At least the former chairperson. Did we get left with any sort of transition plan, updates, schedule, where we are with things, or did we just get left with a dumpster fire?
I have a list of the violations, which I will distribute. I'll do it via email when we're done with this. There's also, she had published, I believe, the agenda for next week.
Right.
So that's on there.
It's on the Dropbox.
So, and I'm hoping I can find a list of projects.
I started to draw up some previous minutes and stuff like that. I just need to ask, Tina, can you hear us okay?
Sorry, yep, I was unmuting. I can hear.
Thanks. Could you tell me where we are with the minutes that were taken for the last meeting that we had for Concom, which would have been on the June?
28th. Yep,
28th.
everything's all done. Amy has copies of them all.
Amy does.
I can gladly email them to everybody.
I think
If
that-
you'd like.
I think that would be very helpful, even though we may not approve them for a little while. It would be nice to see them in the draft form that you usually prep up, because if nothing else, that will see what we last talked about with some of the larger hearings and more complicated projects we're on. And give us a better sense. So if you could do that, would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, that'll
No
give us a
problem.
guide.
I'll get them over tonight. They're all set.
Great.
Thanks.
Sure. So, yes, it was a little abrupt, the exiting. So as far as bringing us up to speed with some of the stuff, Anne gave us a pile of stuff that, paperwork that she either started working on or cast.
Basket was downstairs that I ran away from. That's on the table in the conference room.
Yeah, so
Oh, no, that's my stuff.
very similar, okay?
Those for the building, the town,
Yeah.
yeah, that's ours.
So
Yeah, who needs that?
we're just trying to get an idea now of, try to keep the flow going. A lot of paperwork coming in. I'm gonna end up helping out for the intro, okay?
You are, I'm sorry.
I'm Tim Icardi, I'm the building commissioner. Okay, I've been on your meetings a
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
times, yep. I'm also a conservation member in my own town. I've been there for almost 17 years now on the board. Mendon. And so I'm gonna assist you guys and
In what capacity?
in Ann's capacity. So I'll try to gather as much and organize as much as I can. We have stuff coming in every day, which we are still advertising. So we're hoping that we get a little more interest for the position.
Can you share a job description with us? I know one was written up because somebody told me it had been, but I've never seen it. Just curious as to what's in it.
It's on the website.
I looked and I could not find it.
Yeah, it's there,
Is
but
it
I'll send
under
it.
your section under HR or something? Because I was just looking on, I looked on Concom.
Oh,
first,
no, it's under employment.
Just under
Yeah,
employment.
on the front, you see there's a button for employment opportunities.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Is that anywhere but the town website, or is that just our main?
We
is that our
have-
main-
We have put it on MMA, and I asked Ann to see if there was any listserv or anything, but she didn't have any listserv for me, but MMA is usually
Pretty good.
the one that they go to. And the other day I received from DEP a list of probably, I'd say 7 or 8 towns that are looking for exactly the same thing. They were putting out, please, if anyone knows anyone who can fill these. And that was just in one region of the state. So it's definitely a hard one to fill at this point for whatever reason.
Well,
What's
I
the
know,
job pay? Sorry,
so good, Mike.
what would the job pay?
70.
I know Ann said that a while ago that she'd given her notice like a year and a half ago, something like that.
Yes.
Is there any thought now with this much time going by, this many other applicants, towns looking for applicants that are similar? That we get a little more aggressive and do, not just wait for MMA to maybe come up with somebody, but like do a recruitment agency or something like that. Paying a fee would be well worth it because you're gonna get swamped and if you're not already,
Yeah.
even more so, and we need to get somebody qualified. And the first thought that I think some of us on the Concom had was Ann and Cliff for all these years had done so much that we relied on them perhaps more than we should have, but also because they did so well and the paperwork was a huge part of that and staying on top of filings and not having applicants waiting for or beyond the deadlines that they're supposed to be met by and so forth is a huge concern on our part. We don't want to see things slide, but we also realize that I don't think collectively as the Concom existing members are going to be able to operate the same way that Cliff and Ann did in-house, in town, one of them working for the town, the other one in the town and able to run around and do stuff. So along with trying to find somebody to fill the position long term, I have a question, which is that what is the town's level of ability and willingness to support increase the level of, at least temporarily, of technical and meaning engineering, wetland science and so forth, contracted services, because we don't have the ability to do what they did that has to be done to check on sites before, to get approvals, so projects can move forward, to get during the work, if it's possible to go out during the work, or if there's a problem and the contractor says we've got an issue, come out and look at it, and then post-construction to get the sign off so the projects are completed for both the developer, contractor, homeowner, whoever it is, whether it's a septic system or whatever. And we just aren't able to, I think, do that with our personal work schedules and
Or should you have to?
expertise. Right.
So that's part of our meeting here, so I want to try to get an idea of what the members were doing in support of some of the work that's coming in. Are you guys, I know you do sidewalks.
Yeah.
But as far as peer review goes, you have a peer reviewer, I'm assuming that
We've used BSC quite a bit recently.
BSC, okay.
Which is what the one planning board uses.
For individual projects,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a blanket contract.
Right, okay, and
Your sewer
at your
replacement.
discretion, at the board's discretion as well. If you feel you need a peer review, that's what you did. So, peer review is contracted by the board to review projects that come in, and it's at the owner's expense.
Right.
So it's always been that way.
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable with BSC, there's no reason.
Owner, you mean applicant.
That's correct.
Yeah. I think we've been pretty happy with them in the past, depending on who's on, who's the person we feel most, Matt Burns, but I think
Yeah.
mostly, and he's very good, and we've had him a lot of support. I
He's
know
not, but they have engineering support as well. so.
So it's more their availability, that my concern is that they can be, able to do this ramped up level of support instead of occasionally, like on a sidewalk, Cliff and Ann sometimes would go themselves, determine a wetlands boundary and so forth, or inspect something ahead of time and save the rest of the Conservation Commission and the applicant from having to wait for us to go for another Saturday walk or stuff, that we do it. Sometimes they'd say, we are really busy, this is a really big project, we trust BSC or somebody to do the work for us,
Absolutely.
again, keep projects moving.
Absolutely, they're professionals. They
Yeah.
should be able to do that. If you're comfortable with their support, then you can rely on
A
it.
garage,
Yes.
replacing a garage or a septic upgrade, Cliff and Ann would go and walk those lines. Those
Right.
lines are generally,
Yeah.
well-established residential neighborhoods. It's really not exactly.
But also
It's
things
not
like
rocket
checking,
science.
checking the wetland, the erosion control before the project starts.
Right.
That's something that we often do.
Yep.
And then afterwards, saying project's done, you can pull the erosion control, or the area's been seeded, you can have to leave it in for a couple of weeks or months or whatever.
Until it's established.
And then the paperwork that I guess you were saying that you're gonna do now
Well,
temporarily,
yeah.
sign off of the
We have
applicant. can
to-
file.
So that's the purpose here. So we need to keep everything rolling.
Because we have regulatory obligations,
That's right.
legal obligations
Right,
to
you have time.
have
the
hearings
clock
for a
is
certain
running.
amount of time and,
Right.
yeah.
So, that's what we want to just, we want to keep in mind and, you may have to pitch in. I don't know if anyone has, what times anybody has free time, if anybody can,
I think basically all of us either work out of town or partially or fully. And some of us, like Neil, I know travels quite a bit. He was across the country, so he couldn't make the first meeting we went to last week.
Okay.
So I don't travel across the country much, but I'm not around
Neither
town.
do I.
During the weekdays, we found it to be tough to have anybody else, because sometimes Cliff and Ann would encourage or ask if somebody else is available to help do something during the weekend.
Right.
I don't know Steve's obligations. He's relatively new and he can speak for himself on that. But I know Noel and Ariane generally have day jobs that have kept them from doing anything during the week, right? Primarily.
I'm
Yes.
in Southeastern all day. To summarize your question, who did what? Now I've been on the board since March 8th. I've been to 4 or 5 meetings, 4 walks and site visits. In my observation so far, and you guys certainly realign me if I'm off. Cliff and Ann probably pulled 90% of the technical workload. And we would attend the site visits and the drawing reviews, ask the questions. Most of the time, they were in association with or complementary to the bulk of the work that Cliff and Ann did. Especially Cliff on the technical side. And probably with the exception of meeting minutes and meeting minute review. And did nearly all of the administrative, which was her job.
Right.
Is
She's
that
at
a,
100% of the.
is that a fair
Yeah.
evaluation?
Yeah, yeah. And they would Ann would send out draft for review and comments, which we would be able to do on our spare time. And if we had any comments, we would send them back to her to put into the drafts.
So she was sending out all of the submissions that you received, so any notice of intents that came in, she would forward it to everybody. You guys would
Correct.
take a look at it and rely on.
Orders
Ann.
of conditions that were going to be part of an approval process of a project.
Yeah, any new projects that came in, once they got over the initial hurdles and have been accepted. as,
Right,
you know,
and
that
there was
the
a number
minimum-
issued.
But the minimum acceptance, you'd send them out and
Okay.
via Dropbox.
Yeah, that's fine.
We would have the ability to view the plans.
Yep, we can just keep that rolling, so as soon as stuff comes in, it can be forwarded out. We don't want to have any interruption of that. Like you said, everything's time sensitive.
Yeah.
The important thing there is Ann was good at doing it a week or generally 2 or more prior to the meeting. Getting the Dropbox link the night before doesn't serve us. I may be working late that night anyway.
So she was obviously in control of keeping the applicants in line to get them in a timely manner, because if, you can't control the submissions. If they submitted it, the day of or a day before, then she probably wouldn't put it on the, she'd probably put it on hold on the agenda because you didn't have time.
What would happen is it would tie up things during the meeting.
Right,
because we expect
right.
the information, the applicant sometimes would appear and ask us if we would still talk about it or review, which sometimes there were flat out rejections because it was so complicated, it wasn't worth trying to dive into. Sometimes we'd have a brief discussion about the overall essence of what they were supplying, but yeah, I think that applicants will need to understand from you, if you're the first person they contact, that 10 days is the requirement in the town, regulations for conservation commission to submit everything for a hearing. Many times we're getting stuff less than a week at a time, and not just once in a while, but I mean, I know you do in your capacity, I'm sure.
It does, it happens in all.
Right,
all of
but I just think what we need to do different than what's been done in the past is Ann's not there to spend that extra time massaging the paperwork through and making sure we get it and that it has a chance to be even looked at briefly. Applicants just need to understand if they get it to us less than 10 days in advance, it's likely going to be put off to it. Your meeting's going to be put off and you're not going to get heard because you didn't provide it in a timely manner. And
Or will they open the hearing and continue?
yeah, that's
Right.
right. And until the next hearing we have.
Which happens frequently in those late submissions, either they ask for a continuation. Or we open the hearing, have a brief discussion. Look at the paperwork they submitted, but obviously we have to have a chance to look at it, have it peer reviewed, whatever have you. And then continue to a later date.
So, so one question, and Mike, Michael, as far as interest to continue to serve, is everybody interested? We're gonna stay aboard and see these projects through that are, in front of us?
I intend to.
Okay.
I think all of
I
us-
think it really. Cliff has been chair forever, that, I mean, it's. You need to formally reorganize to have a chair and a vice chair, so whether you do it tonight or at your next meeting, that's your choice, but there should be two people, because if. You were the chair, whoever is gonna be vice chair would be known to the applicants to step in. And. You know, the charter's going on right now, so there was a question that I posed to Tim was. When because it's a 7-member board. A quorum is 4, but if there's only 5 members showing. Does the vote have to be 3-2, or does it have to be 4-1 to satisfy the quorum? And Tim is gonna check with council. And then to take that one step further. Over the years, I don't think you've regularly had 7 members.
all at once. I've been on 14 years. I had to look it up, and I don't think there has been a long span of ever 7 members. There have been a few times when I know I've had 7, and I will say the
Yeah.
board has really been good. Those members that are on, have joined the conservation committee, have been really good about coming to meetings regularly. So generally, we only had one time I can think of in 14 years where we did not have a quorum. And
So,
that was Cliff even said, I think at the time, it was a shock to him.
And then we always work with it's a majority of the members present voting.
okay,
That's how.
So if there's,
And we never,
so I guess the question.
we
that
get
came up
through,
under
we
the
never,
charter
we
is-
never have.
There's no reason to drop from 7 to 5 because we're gonna have trouble
No.
filling positions.
you don't think that's a,
Well,
It's not necessary.
I don't know about trouble filling positions, because we would not have trouble filling positions. It took 1.5 years to get Steve in that position.
right,
And
that's-
we have Brian Norton, who has resigned because of health reasons, so you guys were made aware of that, I think Ann told me a while back. It wasn't too long ago, a couple months ago, I think, when he formally did, he tried to stay on, but just couldn't, so we are down 2 members and the administrator, so that's.
that's gonna be a problem.
Gonna be rough.
You're gonna make a quorum with, as long as all of you show up, and that doesn't happen all the time because people have commitments. So,
The one provision there that was addressed, as long as the member, there are the tools for the member to get caught up relative to the contents of the meeting. So there's no need,
We can't hold the meeting if we don't have a quorum.
understand it, but
they can review it after, that's what you're.
correct.
Yeah, right.
I mean, sorry, I know the least about this whole process, so knowing that we had so many projects and obviously the biggest is WS, whether. There's any risk that we have to change the timelines. Because Cliff is gone and. The quorum, so I think that's all set.
Yeah,
I
so,
mean, if we got a new member onto the board. How would they ever get up to speed on something like WS?
We addressed that because Steve hasn't been around long enough for this current WS version, not the shops one, which went
Right.
7 or 8 years, then fell apart, and then a couple years go by.
And I've been going back through the old meeting minutes.
Well, he can
What's that
reread it. The way Cliff and Ann have addressed the Mullen rule with commissioners who've come on board and not been around or had to leave. Not leave, but not be available for a couple meetings and miss the required number, miss more than required number, is that they have a catch-up meeting. At the end of the project, a summary meeting where that member or members that have been missed a couple meetings are allowed to hear everything encapsulated and summarized by the applicant. And that seemed to, from their talking to legal counsel a while back,
Okay,
satisfy the Mullen rule. But
And,
you have to-
and when the meeting is held by the commission and the applicant, with all members present. That's acceptable to the applicant that they waive any
So they-
claim to Mullen.
yeah, okay.
They do, which generally they have been,
Yeah,
a
they-
couple things happen, they've been good.
I mean, rarely are we that contentious with somebody that they won't.
In the case of the WS,
In which case it usually doesn't get that far anyway, so, by that.
in the situation with the WS project, there's not that much change from meeting to meeting. We're still debating or discussing the replication ratio, which hasn't changed since I came on in March,
No, it went up.
from 1.5 to 1.6.
Yeah, I mean, they're working on,
On two,
it's,
1.9, yeah.
Last meeting that wasn't done yet.
yeah, it's.
Hey
it's-
guys, sorry to interrupt, Jim Cupfer. Just a reminder, if we could stay away from ongoing public hearings, we need to only discuss those during the public hearings that are on the agendas. Sorry to interrupt, guys.
Thank you.
So I think, look, with the absence of Cliff and his expertise, You're gonna have to rely on, peer review more, that you're comfortable with, BSC, that's it, that's great. We don't have to reinvent that wheel, they're there.
Are you gonna be the one to reach out to them, or is Mike, or we to tell them that they're gonna have to be able to up the game to see if they're available? to do
If
so?
vice chair wants to take that on, if not, I'll reach out to them and, I can go through.
Yeah, we can work that out.
Okay,
And we've got to get them on board with, well, we do have, Matt Byrne doing the wetland part. We will probably need them to up their, participation in the engineering. Stormwater, it's mainly stormwater engineering that we rely on them for, so, they'll have to be able to provide, we'll have to see if they have resources available.
yeah, most,
sure they
most
do.
commissions rely on peer review.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't have, somebody sitting
No,
on
and we
that's willing
usually,
to
on the
do that.
bigger projects, we always have engineering peer review, because we're not,
Yeah.
no,
there's,
well, some of us may be engineering,
that's right.
we're not.
They're experts in their field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that it would be beneficial if maybe whoever's gonna be chair has a weekly meeting with you so that we know that what things are in what time frame? And my concern is just paperwork coming into the
And
town.
that's what it'll have to be. So when you
So
reorganize.
you're not hearing about it at the meeting,
Right.
that there's some degree that you could share with whoever else.
We have to schedule hearings in a certain amount of time, we
Yeah.
have to close hearings in a certain amount, we have to issue orders in a certain amount of time.
I assume you have something similar to us. We get emails that say to select board and we can't respond. That gets a way to push it out to you without having discussion. That's probably you didn't have to do in the past because Cliff and Ann were taking care of those things. And I think maybe you need to get updates before the meeting as to what's going on day to day downstairs.
Right, information, I guess, can be sent out one way. It's a two-way correspondence,
Yes.
like Beth said in the email headings, do not
Yeah.
provide,
Yeah.
that we can do. Yeah, I think-
Providing information is not a deliberation or discussion.
Yeah. I just
We're
think
certainly not voting.
Cliff had a comfort level, I think, and everybody was like, well, Cliff had it handled or Ann had it. And now we have that black hole that
Oh,
Well,
the chair and the administrator had that convenient
Right.
location link.
Right.
Is area online? on Zoom?
Ariane?
Not
Unless
that
you,
we're aware
Let
of.
me ask a different question. Are we interested in doing the reorg here tonight?
I would really like, with only 5 members, to see if we can get Ariane involved
That
first. That's
would be my preference, but. Neil, are you interested in the chair or?
I don't know who those numbers are, but I don't think it's Ariane.
I didn't receive any response from them.
I texted her today, because like I said, I just
Earlier
earlier that I had a way to reach her other than the emails too, and I hadn't heard back. She might be on the field. When she's out in the field, I know she's generally not able to get messages or receive messages much.
My personal opinion on the chairs would be one of these two gentlemen. They would be the chair, or vice chair. Noel, I'm not discrediting anything. I'm still learning who the other two players are. Myself, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
That will be a while.
I think that's logical. It's just a question of who is maybe more accessible, and go from there.
Do we think it'd be good to consider it as a topic of discussion for our next meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
we can, so.
I'll get a little
Do you want to think about it?
Think
You
about
can
it. Knowing
reorganize.
your-
You
knowing
can
what
open the
your-
meeting and reorganize.
Yeah, I think knowing what your level of support.
Talk to my
is an important
therapist.
part before we even begin to think about who would do what in the Concom itself.
So, Tim, you're prepared to take on the majority of the administrative function
So
to the
that's,
extent that you think you can.
well, so that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, and we are actively interviewing for an agent.
You go down to 3 hours a night sleep and
Well, no, that's not gonna happen, but I'll give you the support you need. I'll forward all your documents. I'll inform you of what's going on. If you have any questions, you can most certainly email me individually. But mostly I'll be going through the chair. So I'll inform the chair of what came in, any problems come up. Any kind of certificate of compliances that come in for requests, I'll line those up. And I'll be looking for a little bit of guidance of how you were used to having it done. I'll take a look back at the paperwork and I'll I'll keep her format, so it's, there's not a lot of change. I'll do the best I can, until we can.
All her stuff was very well formatted, all neat, concise.
Yeah. I'll take a look at all of her paperwork and I can,
Signature.
all the same.
Offsite storage of documents and information plans, et cetera. Are you gonna get that? Have you made arrangements?
So, as far as, the separate filings for your wetland bylaw.
No,
The stuff they have at their house.
They have a
they've been
ton of
operating for-
files.
Oh, see,
Yeah,
that,
it's not one-
that I don't know. I mean, I'm
I haven't
assuming
seen it,
everything.
but I'm sure that the stuff they need to be transferred.
Put that on my.
Yeah,
my-
that I don't know.
Okay, I know that they're out of town now. Cliff had
They have
emailed
a-
me a
I
while
have
back.
a
saying-
room full of filing cabinets at the factory.
Of town documents?
Well, yeah,
It's been 38 years.
It could be copies.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure anything that was necessary on a daily basis, she wasn't lugging back and forth,
Yes.
so. It's usually here in the office,
Okay.
but yeah, just wanting to make sure that you have backup.
Yeah, see, that I wasn't aware of, but I'm sure, it's a duplicate of what's on file.
Just backing up for a second, you said you're actively interviewing for the agent.
Well, we're still advertised.
Advertising, but not actually, you're interviewing. Yeah.
So we have a fresh applicant that sent in, so we are gonna be, setting up an interview.
How long has it been? advertised?
Qualified.
year and a half,
Yeah,
give or take.
Since Ann announced it.
We received, resumes from, several resumes, but none of them are qualified,
We're not gonna find the ideal person with 7 or 8 other towns advertising.
No,
too, but,
no,
I mean, at least it sounds like it's a decent salary, so. that's-
Well, one question I would have, I mean, it's kind of like the town administrator situation. There are people that are doing that job at a much lower salary, so maybe there's someone in an adjoining town that's making 55. That wouldn't mind 10-minute further commute for 70. And sometimes those people need a little prodding phone call saying, are you looking? One observation, I know that you had a lot of remote meetings. And I would just suggest that
Yeah.
in the short term, particularly with his accessibility, to the extent that you're not traveling to meet in person, because it is a lot easier to share that information.
I know some of the applicants won't be happy because some of their reps travel for quite a while. The
Yep.
guy used to come from Maine.
Yep.
But anyway,
Oh, no, I think my
we-
point
we
is
can-
to more
we'll still have
accessibility to
Zoom.
him than the
We'll
applicant.
still have the Zoom.
oh, yeah,
But,
yeah, no, I know.
we want to do it, I'd like to do it in person, is that okay?
with
Would
the
you guys,
board members.
yeah,
Is,
you can zoom in still
are
if
you
you have to,
expert on the closet there?
we can work that out,
Because that had been an issue even
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
COVID and all that.
I like all
sometimes
the
we could
senior
get a-
tax worker who could come in and just turn it on and off.
It's not a problem,
Okay.
that's not a problem.
Offer some 2 cents prior to this. I'm here in person and will continue to be. The Zoom aspect relative to conservation lended itself well to, as Mike mentioned, the applicants, their accessibility, their ability to share new
Screen.
documents easily because they have their files local. They just bring it on their computer, share the screen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The applicants,
with this setup, if they're screen sharing, it's plenty big enough for anybody to see, so the applicants still
this
have.
works well.
Yeah, we still have the ability to
except
be
the rest
hybrid.
of us all had it on our screen and can Zoom. If you're old, like some of us, the vision isn't that far away, isn't that good?
Yeah, the applicants definitely, they can still Zoom for those reasons exactly that we've all said. It's nice to have them be able to put them up there.
Yeah,
And
and
they
every,
used to meet at that table and roll the plans out.
Yeah.
And everybody would literally huddle around and.
this is a pretty nice setup here, this has been working really well.
I find where you're sitting, Steve, does not lend itself to the eyes, but when you're sitting up here and you can look right into
Well,
Steve.
The one negative to this section is you cannot see who is speaking at that table.
Because it's a distance shot.
If you're on Zoom watching the meetings,
So you're saying this be right here.
you don't know who's talking at that table.
You can change that shot in advance, but.
But someone here needs to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's just,
but it could be
that's.
set up for the first one.
That's a camp.
Happening, selectmen are playing word over. What bothers me is people's heads you always see the back of the head of 2 people sitting at the table talking, and you often can't hear what they're saying. Because they don't have a microphone, so it's like, what was it? What?
When I've zoomed in on select board meetings and planning board, I'm having to guess who's talking when they're when the voice is coming from up there.
Good point.
But that's a camera zoom.
That's probably a separate.
This is another angle. This is another angle here. Right here. So this is normally what we're on when there's other meetings.
Yeah, so,
I just had it on a different camera.
You can zoom in tighter, right? You have the ability to zoom in. or
so
out.
these microphones will record, correct? What's happening for the meeting,
This is being recorded. This is being recorded. Right now.
but can they put microphones on the table there for
We
the
just
applicant?
move one of these right
It would reach
there.
over, okay, never mind, got it, okay.
Well, that's what we used to do, remember?
Well, sometimes, but I can't
Well,
remember.
it used to be that table could slide up 3 or 4 feet and it's easily get to them.
Right, right, okay, so I want to make sure that the applicants could be heard clearly too. whether
My
it's-
preference would be in person, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I was. It was interesting how well the Zoom lended itself to certain situations, better than I expected it would.
Technology.
So look, and every member, I'm sure, isn't gonna make, is gonna have a, not be able to make a meeting at some point, and that's where Zoom comes in. If they can Zoom it, it's just, it's convenient. So definitely, rather.
It's a nice option to have.
Yes. So.
Did you have?
I think that's pretty much it. As an update, we are hiring an administrative assistant to be down in the office with planning and conservation, so that person will train to do a lot of the timing stuff, the paperwork and the mailing, so that'll take off from Tim having to worry about the timing of things. Obviously a learning curve, but they will be in there for that reason, answer the phones, talk to residents when they come in, get messages, have a face to the committee, the commission, so that at least they don't feel.
Take care of the
Yeah,
advertising.
yeah,
Advertising.
eventually it's gonna
All that
be,
stuff,
it's
yeah.
gonna be, the advertising, the mailing,
The-
organizing
Or the
everything.
clerical.
That's right,
Exactly.
that's right.
Yep.
So we have somebody for that position and they're gonna be starting in, September.
Well, I haven't officially made the offer.
Okay, oh, okay.
Yes,
So we have,
The end
we
of
have
it.
somebody that's interested.
2023, probably, right? When you said timing, and you're talking about timing things like mailing out.
Well, yeah,
Notices and sort of.
Yeah.
I reached out to the MACC, Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, and the way it was nice to return a call, even though she was on vacation officially. She gave me a helpline contact person to email, because my question to her was, I know that we have lots of legal obligations from the state and DEP and et cetera, to meet for applicants to respond properly. Or else, and then various things can happen over the years. We've heard that from time to time from Cook and Ann, if we don't do this by this date.
automatic approvals.
Sometimes automatic approvals, or it doesn't get approved, because it goes back to whatever, and then the applicant is upset. We might be concerned or upset, the town might not concern. So I asked if there was a timetable. She thought initially, and she's gonna have this person, if I reach out to them, see if they can pursue it, that the MACC already has, because it was in one of the fundamentals training classes, a chart. Which basically said for notice of intent, you need to have the applicant file and then you have to respond within 30 days. And that's the kind of timetable we need to have unless you already have that.
Right, so, I don't have the chart, but when you get it, just.
Yeah, oh, no, I think it's real critical
they
to
would
do that.
agree to the.
Yeah, I think somebody's got to have it. These aren't questions that
No,
are brand new, but
No, they just put it in, they just put all that, distilled it into a chart.
she thought that they did. I think it's on the fundamentals class.
So I have the handbook, so.
She said it used to be in the old,
I have an old.
there might be one in there, but if not, online, they might have.
I'll check mine as well.
But that's something we want to live by, for sure.
So I'm gonna have assistance as well, helping me with the paperwork end.
So it
I'm
looks
not doing
like-
it all myself.
It looks like we are gonna have a July 26th conservation.
Because you do have another.
I do have another job, yeah,
Yeah.
but we have several assistants that can assist me. So I'm not worried about that.
I think we had two items on the agenda, plus the minutes approval for April or something, which isn't that critical. And those two, one was a septic system repair and the other was 0 Maple Street notice of intent review. I guess they're getting back on the stick there for, my first question to Ann last time I talked to her was, why are they called 0 Maple Street? It's in the middle of Maple Street.
Yeah, that's,
They said that until they get an official assigned street number, they just wanted the
we
0.
could have put a parcel number on it.
Yeah, something. Anyway,
That was
so
the-
those are the two things. I have not seen, other than what was in the Dropbox.
Did you see the submittal from?
I saw this middle in the Dropbox, but some of the engineering stuff like that hasn't been reviewed by me certainly, and not that I'm qualified in engineering at all. But my question would be, do we have time to get some sort of peer review, or are we basically gonna be saying, thanks for this information, and as we are reorganized at the start of the meeting, and then hear that one, are we gonna need to say, we gotta put this off because we can't get a hold of BSC to even look at the specs on this?
So I think you, so at the next meeting, why don't we, you can do your reorganization. And then we'll address whatever has come in
Right.
between the two meetings, and that will be on it, and someone can make a motion to get peer review on it. So, and then we can.
If that's the initial submittal from them for this particular notice of intent, then I think we have the time to do that. I just want to get it. the whole
Yeah,
time.
we've got-
I wanna
we've
make
got-
sure that we didn't-
We've got plenty of time. Once, we just have to move the process forward in a timely fashion and get them on the schedule and get the hearing open. And once we do that, then the continuations can flow.
That would be a normal size job that you would get a peer review on. Something like that.
It's not so much
It's a small building, but it is right next
when
door.
they have engineering specs and flows and stormwater
Yeah, well,
calculations and
there's-
so forth, I don't
Yeah.
know enough to.
So there's
say whether it's
on that, I looked at the plans, there's a riparian zone.
Is that the one with the access proposed from the back of the site?
No, it's just before you hit the bridge going north on Maple Street,
Do we need-
on the left side there,
Yeah,
there's a
okay.
cleared area. that
Yeah,
we
well,
walk
we-
down behind
yeah,
there.
we
There's
can-
wetlands down there, there's a stream that runs along.
Yeah,
there.
I don't want to get into too many.
Anyway, bottom line is-
But no, we're not getting into specific.
Yeah, so that's the location of the site, and they.
Oh, is that where they cleared? They went in and cleared that area?
It's been there for a while, now I guess they're moving forward, but anyway, so those are the only two things on the agenda, you haven't heard of anything else coming?
No, we
Impressive.
just got a large submittal of, certificate of compliance requests from Baffert, Lovers Lane, Celestial Circle. So would the board normally
Is that
walk
tied
out
into the
there?
DEP notice, DPW notice that Jesse forwarded along, I saw an email chain about that. This wasn't really for, so I guess somebody reached out to the DPW from Baffert / Alicia of the States about road acceptance, was
Yeah.
this the same thing? Yeah.
They wanted to have the road acceptance in November. We told them they weren't ready.
And Jesse's comment was correct, which my understanding was we approved, I think, 5 or 8, 3 and then 5 of the parcels that were still outstanding. They have rain gardens over, but there were comments. I looked at the minutes and there were comments from Ann, notations that she had done the sidewalk to review those before deciding whether she recommended to the commission whether we accept them or not. And she said that there were other sites, other lots that were not in compliance yet with what Baffert's supposed to have done. So I don't know where we are with that.
Well, so they may have worked on those. We have a whole stack of requests.
Somebody's gonna need to go out and look at
Yeah.
what they said
And
because.
Cliff and Ann, to your question,
Right.
Cliff and Ann always did that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, all right, somebody will need to do.
Yep.
That They always went out and did all,
Sure.
they did all the CFC work.
Yeah.
Tim,
Tim, we
where,
do road trips.
I'm up there
where,
normally anyway.
where does your level of comfort in taking this over and
Well, so, I need help, I need administrative,
on a volume side?
on the
What
paperwork.
about a technical?
No, technical, I'm okay. I mean, I served as agent for probably 5 years in my own town. We didn't have, we had an administrative assistant that did the paperwork. The board members, we took turns of doing all the field work. I did it for probably, 5 or 6 years, continuous. And then someone else took it over. So we have a pretty well-rounded board. And most of them have been on for years. I mean, I think one of the guys has been on for 22 years, over there. I know what I'm looking at. I've been in the industry all my life, I've been on the other side as well. So, filing NOIs and doing projects. So, I know what I'm looking at. As far as, the projects coming in, absolutely peer review. We want to rely on the professional, for the calculations and to, review all of these big jobs that are coming in. So I have no problem doing the inspections, as far as a certificate of compliances, it's all in the NOI with your conditions. So it's the same as the planning board. I have to review planning. I approve regular sign-offs for projects through planning board. I have to take their whole format, all the conditions, make sure they've met all the conditions, it's the same thing. But with conservation, I've been doing it for a long time.
Steve, I would think the bigger concern is not that he won't be able to step in and do 60% of the conservation. It's what we're gonna lose on the other end, the things he's doing. So I'm more concerned about what he can't do now from a facilities and inspections on non-Concom things, because Tim's stepping into the role to bridge getting staff on board and everything else too.
Do you have a consult, do you have someone that you have fill in while you're on vacation?
Yes,
I mean, maybe that's something to reach out to.
Yeah, you have to, so I have several, well, I have other towns that fill in for me,
Right.
I fill in for other towns as well, you know. But I'm counting on this being a short-term thing. We want to, look, the goal is to get some stability, get an agent, get them on board. We got the administrative assistant search, and we're really close to that. We want to get this thing up and get it efficient as soon as possible. I'm willing to help out for that period. I'm gonna rely on the board members for a lot of information. You guys have been in the meetings, you know the projects. I'm gonna be looking to you for some guidance on some of that stuff with what paperwork comes in. So, expect that.
We just don't want applicants to feel like they're delayed.
And that's the goal. I mean,
No, there's no, we shouldn't be impacting.
a lot of these applicants have put a lot of work and, a lot of expense in whatever projects are in front of you. So that's our goal, is to just try to keep everything moving.
Hopefully not too many bumps along the way.
No,
I'm sure there'll be.
there's gonna be bumps, but let's come up with solutions,
Without going to specifics, because I agree with Jim, this is not the place to do that. We have one project which was denied and which has gone to court. Which I think Mike's not.
I don't know if it's actually gone, it's gone to DEP.
Well, the note I have is it's appealed to DEP requesting superseding order of conditions in
Right.
Superior Court. DEP has to decide on the merits of the appeal. I don't know the status of that, but Tim, if you know what I'm talking about, the project.
I can.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't think they've gone to Superior Court yet. I think they've gone to DEP.
they had 60 days to appeal the local regulations, and I'm looking at minutes from the April 12th meeting, so that's well past 60 days.
Yeah.
And
And
see how, and
if that is done, the town council will have to participate,
That's-
make sure everything is handled
that's-
on the regulations. So that's my concern, to make it,
Right.
Mike aware of it if he's not already, because that will like selectmen. If town
That's
council's involved.
that's our big thing right now, and we're personally not equipped, And Cliff had been to court once or twice. It happened a couple of times over the years, not very often.
so if you
They wanna get-
deny a project, it gets kicked back to DEP, and DEP will either issue a superseding order. Or, that's right, then it goes to court.
Then if they're appealing under the local, can only go to Superior.
Oh, yeah, if they're appealing under the local
They're
bylaw.
Appealing under the
Right,
local.
it says nothing to do with DEP.
Nothing to do with that.
Right, they requested a.
Is that what it is?
They requested a
Oh.
superseding order of conditions in Superior Court. That's what the applicant was
Superseding.
denied. So,
But I don't know that we've been officially notified. that
no,
they actually-
I haven't heard anything. I wanted to bring it up because it's something
Yeah.
that the only legal thing that I know of that I haven't heard the stats up in quite some
So maybe
time.
you can check with town council. And see if there's.
I
anything on the
haven't
radar.
heard anything, but we can let them.
I'll check with town council.
Because that's a. Big deal.
Yeah.
We would have received some mail on that, and we haven't.
Yeah.
And we're monitoring all that, so.
Is there a reason that we should have reinstate Amy Puzzle coming twice a month now?
Why don't we, have a conversation about it and see, yeah.
Or even once a month? We'll talk about it
Yeah,
too.
sure.
Amy's role is,
She's from town council, KP Law, works with Joe Fair. She is very familiar with all the land and worked very closely with Jim on legal.
Yeah, we get her involved when we have any kind of legal questions, and she gives us the answer. Tries to keep us out of trouble.
Yeah, she'll go to
That's a good
court
thing.
for us.
Yeah.
Keep you out of troubles.
Yeah.
Good-
Jim,
good
Jim,
policy.
did you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you guys touched on everything for now. I mean, you're really, Tim's gonna be really your go-to for the foreseeable future until we get someone on board. I'm certainly here as well. You can shoot me an email. If there's any questions at all, feel free to shoot me an email and I can get back to you. We can certainly talk on the phone. Whatever I can do to support you guys to get you over the hump. I'm certainly here as well. But I think for tonight, you guys covered it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any questions? Any more questions?
Covered everything I made notes of before to make sure we touch base on.
So so the agenda is posted for the 26th. As far as,
Well, it's in the Dropbox. I don't know if it's posted.
I'm not sure if it's been posted, but I did see the agenda, so I'll.
I don't think it's on the website.
Okay. Okay.
Tonight's was on the website, but I don't think.
All right, so with that being said, business, that comes in on a short notice as far as, I guess my question to you is homeowners. I don't know how they handle the homeowner, but, I'll tell you how I handled it. We've always handled it on my board. Homeowners doing a deck, doing, a gazebo or something in the yard. What level did you hold? Ann went out and probably determined whether it was an impact or not. Is that how you were doing it?
They determined if it was jurisdictional.
Right,
So if it's jurisdictional, then it's either they go, NOI or,
or,
RF.
okay, so a negative determination with some conditions even?
Yes, we do,
we-
we do a lot of negatives with,
Okay.
with conditions.
Great. Great, okay, that's.
And sometimes they turn into positives and
I'll,
turn into
I'll,
negatives.
what I'll do is I'll go out and take a look at the stuff, I'll recommend, and I'll explain what it is, and you can, make your decision based on my recommendation.
Since you're mentioning homeowners, one of the number one things that we've been doing consistently for 13 or 14 years I've been doing is anytime we come into a homeowner situation, there's something in their backyard, inevitably, and especially if there's wetlands nearby, we ask that they clean up the area that's within their property that is even into the wetlands, because they often have not themselves, of course, never
Right.
themselves, but some neighbor or somebody's been dumping
Oh, yeah.
yard wastes up back there, and there's an opportunity to get them, and usually the applicants are very willing to do that.
Yeah,
It's a big help to us to know that we've done a small.
Nobody
basis.
knows who did it.
well, I think,
Somebody's been dumping it in the
So that'd be
wetlands.
nice if, as you say.
So I think, look, homeowners don't understand the whole, Protection Act and what the procedure is, and nor should they have to, but they need to be made aware if they're proposing a project within a buffer zone, it's a small, they're digging some footings by hand. It's an opportunity, you can educate them a little bit and say, hey, look, as long as you're gonna stay right here and the dirt's going back in this hole, we'll give you a negative determination with some conditions, I think.
But we
that's-
do go through the hearing process, we formalize it, we
Okay,
sign.
okay,
off.
so
We
there's-
do go through the whole. formal
Okay,
process.
so, but
We don't do anything on. a
no
handshake.
no advertising, right?
I
We'll just do an
don't think they're advertising.
RDA, so
I
you're
think they're
gonna,
advertising.
so all the RDAs are advertised, okay, all right,
No, we're strictly about.
okay, all right.
No handshakes, no,
Yeah, well, I
no
don't,
winks and
well,
nods.
so an RDA, I don't think has to be advertised, but if you're advertising them, we can advertise it.
Yeah, I checked the paperwork on that. There should be some record. Go back through some of the RDAs, see if she advertised.
Could be some RDAs.
So the applicant is paying for the advertising and they're getting on the agenda and they're coming in and explaining their project.
Sometimes with a wetlands person, sometimes they just come in on their own, and
Okay.
if it looks complicated, sometimes they're nudged to maybe.
Well, I'll vet it. If it's
Yeah, you'll-
if it
that-
needs to
that-
be an NOI, I'm gonna tell them, you really gotta file an NOI for this. You're gonna have to get an engineer and you're gonna have to file an
Right.
NOI. So, but
I'm
I'll
trying to
vet
think
them.
A
out.
lot of
I
the,
just wanted to get the parameters of what you're used to seeing as far as small.
all the septic repairs and, things like that. They're all hiring engineers anyway,
Right.
because you gotta get the. you
Yeah,
gotta get
and
the
if an
system
NOI is
done.
involved, then it's an NOI.
Nobody's planning their own septic system.
Okay. All right.
Well, hopefully not.
And we have been consistent to, Jim will speak to that. We need to, that the planning board and plans for the planning board for a project and plans for the Concom needs to be the same set of plans. So if they haven't heard the planning boards, we sometimes don't approve project. If they have one more hearing for the planning board, because if a change happens in the plans and we've approved it with one set of plans, then we have two sets of plans, and
Then we gotta get an amendment and
yeah, so we, if there ever gets to the point where you're looking at a project that has planning board as well as
Right,
Concom implications,
right,
we
and
probably
sure.
go to the applicant, and yeah, absolutely, a lot of them do, but usually the wetland scientists and professionals who are involved know to, they're going to both boards, they gotta get signed off from both boards for the final set of plans before the final approvals are given by both boards, because planning board has been consistent with us too, they don't approve something usually unless if we have.
So you first? Are you?
Day timing wise, just because we usually have a meeting the day before them. So if it's on the same hearing and it's going to them the next day, somebody has said, okay, well, we'll prepare the paperwork, but if no changes happen to plans, then we can sign off on the next
Okay.
meeting. And if
the last minute, the planning board says we need an access road.
Well, so what happens is, if you're all set to approve a plan and the planning board is all set to approve the project, and all of a sudden something comes up and says, oh geez, we really wanted you to do this or angle this way, then they're gonna have to submit new plans and you're gonna have to put it on the following.
Correct.
Yep. So, okay,
Well, at the end of the day, we have one set of plans.
Right. same plan.
We're approving the same plan the planning board.
Okay.
And you'll be in a unique position too for building permits to make sure that they're,
Yeah, we have the computer system that we have now is, it doesn't move forward unless it's signed off. So.
thanks. Beth, could you do me a favor, put together a list of names, titles, contact info for everybody? I'm not sure I have Jim or Tim's information like that, just so we have something sent out to everybody, so we all have the same contact info, and put ours all on there as well, so maybe everybody, there's one unified list for now, so we can communicate easier.
That'd be part of our directory already.
Should be in there. I'll look to see if it's up to date. It should be on the website.
Well, speaking of websites, not to rush things, but at some point in time, we need to take Brian and Cliff and Ann off.
Yes. Yep.
There's no, and mostly not in a rush to do it, but mostly for people who don't know.
No, that'll be, that should
They'll be
be,
reaching out.
that should be me. They've turned it.
And I'm not on it yet.
And Steve's not on it, that's right.
Yeah.
Steve needs to be
I
on
can
it.
direct them to you.
Yeah, I think they're already,
No, but I mean, someone like,
yeah,
like Cliff and Ann's must be going to someone.
it's going
else.
on, it's going on. And then it comes to me.
And I know the voicemail, the message, it goes to Michelle and.
Melissa?
Melissa, rather. Yeah, I was,
Yeah, my
my number just to see where we go, and I was like, oh, okay.
We'll get that all straightened out.
Yeah, we didn't want it often.
Well, not that, but it made me think if I was calling in and I had intended to talk to the Conservation Commission and I get a voice which seems to be from a different department, do I dial the wrong number? Is somebody picking up for it? And I know she can't change one message to say something for Concom without confusing people as like, but yeah, that threw me off, but that's just, at least it's going to a voicemail somewhere.
And everybody tends to call her number anyways to be transferred. So it
Oh,
doesn't-
really? I didn't know
They
that.
call for, it's like the switchboard.
She catches them all.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of building, a lot of town clerk, a lot of treasurers. Yeah, it all comes in there.
Was Dennis gonna officially retire at the end of December?
I think we can say public.
I'm sorry.
We can't say publicly.
No, I thought there had been announced publicly and then like Bellingham Bulletin or something like that, this was like 6 months ago or something like that, his plan, he, along with the fire chief and police chief and so forth, I thought they mentioned. town administrator Dennis
He
Green.
had planned on retiring this year, but then
Oh, was
moved
this-
it forward. Or moved it in advance because of all the changes, so he was looking at, he had announced it like next year,
Yeah.
Right, okay.
tentatively next year.
Yeah.
So that's where we are, so.
Thanks.
Can you
Yep.
close out the meeting and the cameras go off? We can probably
Yeah.
say something.
Okay, well, I'm set. Anybody else have anything?
Okay. Tina, are you all set?
Yeah, I'm good. I actually have the minutes. Mr. O'Haron had some revisions from the April 26 minutes. Those have been done by Ann, the revisions, and I have those, so I'll forward those to everybody tonight. The ones from May 10th and June, forgot the first week in June were done. Ann likes to try to proof them before she sends them to everybody. So I know that those have not been at the previous meetings. So I'll just send them all out to everybody tonight. I just checked to make sure everybody's email addresses, and I do. So I'll just send all 4 sets tonight. So
thank
that
you.
everybody has them.
Tina, will you include Tim and myself on that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That'd be great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anybody got anything else? Do you want to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Meeting closed.